And good morning, everyone. Happy Friday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings and Responding to the Critics. Okay? I'm currently investigating a really hot topic, and that's Armageddon. You know, with October the 7th, Israel versus Hamas, Israel versus Hezbollah, I'm telling you, as is always the case, the dispensational world just lit up. Is this the beginning of Armageddon? Folks, do you understand? You can't even have Armageddon, i.e., the Great Tribulation. You can't have Armageddon until the middle of the 7-year tribulation period, after the rebuilding of a temple authorized by the man of sin, and the breaking of the treaty, and then the Great Tribulation period. And then war breaks out. You got Armageddon. You can't have Armageddon without a rebuilt temple. You can't have Armageddon without the man of sin in the dispensational paradigm. And so when people jump up and say, oh, is this the beginning of Armageddon? This is totally anachronistic. There is no temple being built, actually, in Jerusalem. There is no man of sin authorizing that. The dispensational preachers, so-called prophecy experts, they just cherry pick a subject. They cherry pick an event and say, oh my goodness, look, this means the rapture is just at hand. Or this means the man of sin is alive. Or this means that we're beginning the Great Tribulation. No, ladies and gentlemen. There is a set course, chronological narrative, that if dispensationalism is true, that narrative has to be followed. You cannot take this event, put it back here, and this one and put it over here. That violates the dispensational paradigm. Okay, I want to ask you a question. Who is the villain in the subject of Armageddon, the Great Tribulation? Who's the bad guy? Well, here's one thing that is certain. And I touched on this last week. All right? So I'm going to go over here, Revelation chapter 16. And I'm going to share something with you that, you know what? As I said last week, dispensational preachers are not telling you this. Now, whether or not they're purposely hiding it from you, I can't make that determination. Maybe they're just ignorant of the fact. I don't know. If they're just ignorant of the fact, then shame on them. Revelation chapter 16. John said that a judgment was coming, and that judgment was Armageddon. And it was the outpouring of the wrath of God and the 7 bowls of wrath that are mentioned in the previous chapters here. Okay? So, the bowls of wrath, let me begin. I'm just going to read all the way down through verse 6. I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the 7 angels, go and pour out the 7 bowls of the wrath of God upon the earth. And the first angel went and poured out his bowl upon the earth, and it became a loathsome and malignant sore upon the men who had the mark of the beast and who worshipped his image. And the second angel poured out his bowl into the sea, and it became blood like that of a dead man, and every living thing in the sea died. And for time's sake, I'm going to skip on down here. Verse 5. I heard the angel of the water saying, righteous are you, O Lord, the one who was, and you are, and who is to come, O Holy One, because you did judge these things. For they poured out the blood of the saints and the prophets, and you have given them blood to drink. They deserve it. I'm reading from the New American Standard, by the way. Okay, so here is God's judgment, God's wrath, being poured out on someone. And there's blood and there's fire and there's vapor of smoke. Oh, interesting. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Okay. But who is this wrath being poured out on? Well, guess what? Down in verse 17 and following. Now, what we've got here in this chapter is the gathering of the kings of the earth for the great day of the Lord Almighty. Well, what's the great day of the Lord Almighty? It's the day of wrath. Well, first of all, it's Armageddon, right? Everybody agrees with that. I don't know of anybody that disagrees with that. So look at it again. Verse 13 and following. I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs. For they are spirits of demons and performing signs, which go out to the kings of the whole world to gather them together for the war of the great day of the Lord. Pardon me. Okay, so you got the gathering for the battle of Armageddon, the great day of the Lord. Well, what is this battle, Armageddon? Who is it against? Who's the villain? We've already been told. Verse 6. It's somebody who killed the saints of the Lord and his prophets. Who was that? That's Old Covenant Jerusalem. Now, here's the point you got to catch, folks. You've absolutely got to catch the power of this. In the dispensational paradigm, we are taught that Israel is essentially an innocent victim of Armageddon. Oh, they're zealous for God. They want to build a temple. They want to restore Torah. They want to restore the animal sacrifices. They want to restore the priesthood. They just want to serve the Lord. But here's this nefarious man of sin, and he turns on them after allowing them to build the temple and persecutes them. And what we have is the great tribulation, Armageddon. So in the dispensational paradigm, Israel is an innocent victim. Sort of, kind of. But in the actual biblical text, the object of God's wrath at the great day of God's wrath, the great day of the Lord, is the entity that we shall identify momentarily, is the entity that killed God's saints and his prophets. Who is that? Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that kills the prophets and those that are sent unto thee. Matthew 23:37. Acts chapter 7, Stephen standing in the temple at Jerusalem said to that hostile audience, which of the prophets have you not slain? Who does the Bible identify as the persecutor of God's saints? It's Old Covenant Jerusalem. In other words, Armageddon is against a city, an entity that is not an innocent victim. Armageddon is the war against that city guilty of killing the saints and the prophets. Now, as I pointed out last week, that's not literal Iraq. Couldn't be. They never killed a single prophet of God. I'm pretty sure it's not New York. Pretty sure it's not New Jersey. Pretty sure it's not Las Vegas, sin capital of the world. No. Okay, let's see who it is. The seventh angel, remember, the seven bowls are to be poured out to complete God's wrath. And you have the outpouring of God's wrath and the gathering of the kings of the earth for Armageddon and the great day of the Lord. You with me? And the seventh angel poured out his bowl upon the air, and a loud voice came out of the temple from the throne saying, "It's finished." The outpouring of God's wrath in the seventh bowl. And there were flashes of lightning and sounds and peals of thunder, and there was a great earthquake, such as had not been since the foundation of the world or had ever come upon the earth. So great an earthquake was it, and so mighty. And the great city, the great city was split into three parts, and the cities of the nations fell. Now remember, this is the great day of the Lord. This is the great day of the Lord against those who killed the prophets and the saints of the Lord. Who is this? And Babylon the Great was remembered before God to give her the cup of the wine of his fierce wrath. Who is the object of Armageddon? Who is the object of the great day of the Lord here? Is there an innocent victim here? Is there a scenario of Israel being persecuted by the man of sin? Absolutely not. The villain here, ladies and gentlemen, is the city that killed the saints and prophets of God. That means that the guilty party, not an innocent victim, the guilty party is Israel, Old Covenant Jerusalem. It is Babylon. By the way, this is proven, and it says, Babylon the Great was remembered before God. That word that is used there for remembered, okay, is from a Greek word, which in turn is taken from a Hebrew word. And it meant to bring to covenant remembrance. In other words, to put it as simply as possible, whoever Babylon was, or is, it was a city in covenant relationship with God, but because of her sin, the provisions of wrath are being brought to bear on her because she killed the apostles and prophets. Now, let me ask you a question. What city that was in a covenant relationship with God, but who that city killed the apostles and prophets and the saints of God? There's only one city that was ever in a covenant relationship with God and that killed the saints and the prophets. And that was Old Covenant Jerusalem. But wait a minute. It's that city that bears the brunt of God's wrath. It is that city, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, you've got to catch the power of this. It is that city, Babylon, that was the villain. And that city, Babylon, is the city, quote, where the Lord was crucified, unquote, Revelation 11, verse 8. Revelation 16 proves beyond a shadow of a doubt, no doubt whatsoever, the villain of Armageddon was Old Covenant Jerusalem. It is not modern day Jerusalem and Israel being an innocent victim of the bloody work of some antichrist. I'm telling you, folks, this changes everything. And by the way, It means that Armageddon is past. It means the Great Tribulation is past. Now, is that good news or what? Hey, listen, go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com. Go to the bookstore, order yourself a copy of Blast from the Past. I've got to tell you, I have had people tell me, hundreds and hundreds of people who have told me, this book delivered them from fear. This book, simple as it is, see, it's not very big, and it's inexpensive. This has delivered them from fear of the future. Do yourself a favor. Get a copy of my book, Blast from the Past, The Truth About Armageddon. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining me for this morning's Morning Musings as I respond to the critics. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you on Monday.